On the night of June 18th of 1864, Confederate General Joseph E. Johnston moved his forces and entrenched them here at Kennesaw Mountain in Georgia, essentially turning it into an earthen fortress. Now, following the battle at Kolb's farm on June 22nd of 1864, Sherman was convinced that the Confederate line was spread too thin, so he decided to launch a frontal assault against the entrenched Confederates here at Kennesaw Mountain. How will they fare? Well, let's find out. So we are in an area called Pigeon Hill. Now, you can't see it from here, but beyond these hills here is Big Kennesaw Mountain, followed by Little Kennesaw. And right here is a little spur coming off of Little Kennesaw Mountain, I guess you can say. Now, this is called Pigeon Hill. So on the morning of June 27th of 1864, 3 Union brigades in this general area here would launch an assault against entrenched Confederate forces on Pigeon Hill. Now, those 3 Union brigades were under the command of Brigadier General Giles Smith, Brigadier General Charles Walcutt, and Brigadier General Joseph Lightburn. Now, I believe Lightburn's brigade was positioned somewhere directly in front of us here. Now, they would launch their assault shortly after 8 a.m. in this direction here. Now, in this general area, it's a little hard to envision just because we have a main road here along with the parking lot. The 63rd Georgia, who was rather inexperienced, was essentially in some rifle pits. So Lightburn's brigade would quickly overwhelm the inexperienced 63rd Georgia, killing 40 and then capturing an additional 40. Now, Smith's brigade, assaulting in this general direction, would also force back Confederate skirmishers under the command of Brigadier General Cockrell, who was manning Pigeon Hill up in this direction. So this early Union attack was showing signs of success. So if you're interested in viewing this portion of the battlefield, the Pigeon Hill parking lot is directly in front of us here. And directly in the middle of this field here is a monument honoring the U.S. regulars that fought here. Now, you had the 15th, the 16th, the 18th, and 19th U.S. infantry. And again, these forces would have advanced across this field here and right into the Confederate rifle pits. So, although this attack and this portion of the line had some early success, we're going to find out that the Union forces assaulting up Pigeon Hill were having a difficult time.
The woods to the left and front were swarming with bluecoats. On a portion of the line held by Company K, they had reached the pits, and a hand-to-hand conflict ensued. Sergeant Walter Clark, 63rd Georgia Infantry.
So we moved, so I just want to reorient you. So what you're seeing here is the very field that we were just on. That's where you had Lightburn's brigade advancing across, meeting the 63rd Georgia and driving them back, okay? So we've crossed the road here, making our way up Pigeon Hill, and in this general direction, this is where you had Giles Smith's brigade advancing straight at us here. And within his brigade, you had the 6th Missouri, 127th Illinois, the 55th Illinois, the 57th Ohio, the 116th, and the 111th Illinois as well. So they were working their way straight at us and up this way. And they were encountering Confederate skirmishers from the 2nd Missouri, I believe. Now, next to Smith's brigade, you had Walcutt's brigade further in this direction. And his brigade was slightly smaller. He only had 4 regiments. And they were encountering skirmishers from the 48th Mississippi. So we're going to make our way up Pigeon Hill here, and we're going to see this battle from the Confederate perspective. I'll tell you what, Pigeon Hill isn't a monumental hike. We're not looking up at thousands and thousands of feet, but it is steep. Now I want to show you, we're about 3/4 of the way up. We started down there, and the angle is like this. So imagine, Smith's brigade is coming up from this area. Just look how steep it is. We're under Confederate fire. There's probably not much cover here outside of what you're seeing, and it is straight up. So you can see I'm a little out of breath, and all I have is a backpack and a camera. Imagine lugging your rifle, bayonet, ammunition. Maybe you have your pack, maybe you don't, maybe you dropped it. But we gotta hike up there under fire, and then we gotta fight a battle. Not easy. All right, so we're nearing the summit here of Pigeon Hill. I'll call this area Ankle Break Central here. But just to show you where we started through the foliage here, I would say probably right at 100 yards to the base of the road. Now, I'm not sure how identical it is to the battle, but I'd say it's pretty close. So manning this area was the 3rd and 5th Consolidated Missouri Infantry Regiment. And they built these earthworks, and they were defending this position here. And on June 27th, the 6th Missouri Infantry Regiment from the Union, part of Giles Smith's brigade, was assaulting this very position. So it's pretty interesting how we are in Georgia, and you have Confederate Missourians battling Union Missourians as they charged up the hill. Now, the Union would make it to about 25 yards of these earthworks here, where they began taking cover behind boulders, just out here in the fields before us here. So I just wanted to show you how well preserved these earthworks truly are. Now, keep in mind, I'm staying off the earthworks. I'm just in the ditch behind them. But look at this position here and the fields of fire that this position would have offered. Again, they had the Union coming straight for us here, and we are behind the Confederate earthworks here. Just incredible.
Gentlemen, this will be serious business, and some of us must go down. Union Brigadier General Giles Smith.
All right, so I wanted to show you the Confederate earthworks from the Union perspective here. Now, we're pretty close. We're a little closer than 25 yards, but if I had to guesstimate, I'd say 25 yards is somewhere right in here. So I'm going to pan back to my right, and right here you see a remnant of the Confederate earthworks here. So give you an example of just how deadly this assault ended up being. The Confederates only lost 9 dead with about 30 wounded here, and the Union coming from this general direction here, assaulting up, taking refuge behind some of the boulders here. They lost 154 men killed. Now, that isn't killed and wounded, that is just killed from Giles Smith's brigade in this general area. Wow. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is nothing better than researching a site or reading about it and then coming to the very spot. Here we are making our attack up Pigeon Hill. Confederate earthworks are just behind us on the camera here. And think about, we're a Union soldier in that Missouri regiment, and we're taking heavy fire. Maybe one sheltered behind this very rock. And here I am in this very spot. Confederate trenches just behind us on the camera here. You can truly get a sense of just how close these men were. And we're just exchanging lead back and forth. Again, the Union suffered heavily on Pigeon Hill. Confederate casualties were relatively light. Man, this really puts it in perspective.
There could be no concert of action and little leadership. Each had to climb or shelter himself and fight as he best could. Unknown soldier, 55th Illinois Infantry.
It was really sickening to see those brave fellows struggling up that valley. No troops could stand such a concentrated fire. Lieutenant Joseph Boyce, 1st 4th Missouri Infantry.
So I worked my way back from the main line there. So we were just right in this general area here. And this position that you're seeing before us was a artillery battery under the command of Captain C.L. Lubston. And he had an Alabama battery in this general area, predominantly made up of 12-pound Napoleons. Now, look at the position of his battery and where the Confederate line was. I'm going to pan to my left. You can see there's more earthworks here. But these cannons were in position. They were essentially hurling their rounds just above the heads of the Confederate infantry before us here. So imagine being one of those infantrymen and these rounds are hurling past you just feet above your head. Think about, you know, the noise and the shock wave that would have caused. That would have been quite the experience here.
Fire!
All 4 guns belched at once. Within 5 minutes, the enemy's batteries opened on us, with all the guns that could be brought to bear on us, passing over, striking the front of the works, striking the ground in our front, and ricocheting over us, knocking down our embrasures, bursting right above the top of our works. Robert Maxwell Lumsden's Alabama Battery.
Coming to the battlefields and seeing the terrain firsthand, you can really get a sense of how the terrain affected the outcome of the battle. And it helps offer just a little bit of clarity into understanding these conflicts. And you can really see how a strong defensive position can really neutralize a much larger attacking force. Remember, we had 3 Union brigades assaulting in this general area, and 1 lone Confederate brigade, along with a couple artillery batteries, caused over 500 casualties to the Union in just 1 hour. And I'm really glad I came here because I wasn't expecting earthworks to be this well preserved. And I learned a thing or two. Hopefully you did. And like I always say, we'll catch you on the next one.
During the fighting, a man by the name of Austin Gilmore would be mortally wounded while tending to injured Union soldiers not far from Pigeon Hill. Gilmore escaped from slavery and became a stretcher bearer for the 111th Illinois Infantry. He would die of his wounds on July 1st, 1864, and be buried in an unmarked grave.